So let's get straight to it. This TikTok mom, known online as Ash, just shook the internet. She's a mom to newborn twins, a toddler, and now, wait for it, she might be pregnant again. Yep. Not even a full 3 months after giving birth to twins, she's back online holding a pregnancy test and crying on camera. Now, that alone would be enough to raise eyebrows. But this isn't just about shock value. This is about how everything she said after that made even less sense. And the more you listen, the harder it becomes to make sense of how someone in her exact situation could let this happen. Or if it was even an accident to begin with. Ash has built a decent following on TikTok, around 43.5k followers, and her page focuses mostly on solo parenting. And when we say solo, we mean truly solo. Her husband is usually away for work or long stretches of time, leaving Ash to run the household, care for the toddler, and manage the newborn twins on her own. That's not just tiring, it's borderline superhuman. From the outside, it looks like she barely has a second to breathe, let alone film consistent content, and yet somehow she does. Her day-to-day content is what you'd expect from a mom account, but with an added layer of chaos that only moms of multiples would understand. Think bottles lined up like soldiers, diapers stacked in every corner of the house, never-ending soundtrack of crying and cooing, nap schedules that rarely go as planned, laundry baskets overflowing with tiny clothes. And in the middle of all that, Ash usually looks a little bit sleep deprived, still showing up. She's very much in the trenches, but what made her content stand out was the honesty. There's usually a sense of struggle, yes, but also a strange quiet resilience. The kind of doing it all energy that made followers feel like she was one of them, the type of mom you root for, the kind you would watch at 2 a.m. while rocking your own baby to sleep just to feel a little less alone. But then came that video, the one that catapulted her into viral territory, a clip that garnered over 20 million views, massive numbers for any creator, especially one in the parenting space. And what got people watching? The shock factor, no doubt. But it wasn't just that, it was her raw vulnerability, the emotional weight in her voice, the most of all, the deep confusion viewers felt watching her actions not match her words. The contradiction became the conversation. In the now viral clip, Ash appears with her 2 tiny babies strapped tightly to her chest and in a wrap. You can see the fatigue on her face. She's not just tired, she looks emotionally drained. Her eyes are slightly puffy, her voice is trembling, and her hands are visibly shaking as she holds up a pregnancy test for the camera. Her entire energy says it all. She's overwhelmed. And then she speaks. She says she's scared, genuinely scared of being pregnant again. She starts explaining why she's taking the test. Apparently, she's been feeling nauseous for an entire week. She says she doesn't think she's pregnant, but she can't ignore the signs. And that's why she bought the test. Her tone is filled with hesitation and dread, and she keeps glancing down at the test like it's a ticking time bomb. That alone got viewers leaning in, but then came the real shock. She says her husband had a vasectomy, but only 2 weeks ago. She casually drops this info like it's not a huge deal, even though anyone who knows how vasectomies work understands it takes months before they're effective. Then she adds another layer. She had asked for her tubes to be tied during her C-section, but the doctors didn't do it. Why? Because it was a crash C-section, emergency complicated, and apparently it slipped through the crack.
Take a pregnancy test with me, 3 months postpartum with twins. I'm laughing because I'm so stressed out. Oh god. I feel like there's no way I could be pregnant, but at the same time, I've been nauseous all week. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit. Like, this is not even funny. This has to be negative. My husband just got a vasectomy 2 weeks ago. Let me clarify that obviously he didn't get the vasectomy and then we just like did whatever we wanted. Absolutely not. I can't stop watching it. It is like 12:30 and I've not even had a coffee yet today because, as we can see, like, this day is just a little rough and I'm day 7 solo parenting. So I'm gonna make coffee and then I'll come back and we can read this together. Okay, I'm like about to cry. I'm so scared. I cannot do postpartum again. I have tears in my eyes. I'm pretty sure it's negative. Look, I'm like getting line eyes. They were literally supposed to tie my tubes if I had a C-section, and they forgot to. I had a crash C-section, splash and dash, sedated, intubated. I swear to God, if I'm pregnant, I'm pretty sure it's negative. Look, another one. I'll just drink like a bunch of water, and it's the middle of the day. I'm literally shaking.
That moment was when confusion turned into frustration for many. These weren't just sad circumstances. They felt like red flags. People weren't posing because her story was tragic. They were posing because she was stacking up excuses that, when looked at closely, sounded more like rationalizations for avoidable decisions. She had every reason and opportunity to be cautious. She had been through the traumatic delivery. She knew the risk. She said she didn't want to go through postpartum again. And yet, here she was, barely 3 months later, staring into her camera, taking a test and acting shocked. It wasn't just confusing, it felt irresponsible. And that's exactly why the video took off the way it did. She knows she doesn't want another baby right now, not even a shadow of a doubt in her voice. She's literally crying on camera at the mere thought of going through postpartum again. Her emotions are raw and visible. Fear, anxiety, and exhaustion pour out of her as she stares at the pregnancy test in her hand. And yet, despite all that, here she is taking the test. She explains that her husband had a vasectomy, but here's the kicker. It was just 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks, not the recommended 3 months, not even 6 weeks, just 2. Most people know that a vasectomy isn't instant. It takes time to fully become effective. And even then, you're supposed to follow up with a sperm count test to confirm. She mentions none of that. Instead, she just throws it out there like it should have been a foolproof plan.
48-hour update, let's do this together. Well, this video blowing up so much that my nurse midwife texted me and was like, girl, do you need to come in? I said, I don't think so. I figured let's address a few things. A, my daughter ended up throwing up, so I think that maybe we just had back. B, I understand how vasectomy works, okay? It would have been pre-vasectomy. Not that it's the internet's business, but I'm queen of TMI, I literally don't care. My husband has not touched me, he's not even been here since his vasectomy, okay? Also, he got a vasectomy. My urologist let me be in the room and he showed me all his insides while he did it. Love that man. I don't know when I'm on C. I'm tired, my husband's gone. Guys, it takes 1 time. Another TMI. 2 times since I've given birth, okay? I think I'm on D now. I waited until 8 weeks. I was cleared at 6 weeks. I waited till 8 weeks. And I was 13 and a half weeks postpartum in the last video. And lastly, it's okay to be married and like your husband. I'm sorry if y'all don't like your fucking husbands, but me, I like mine, okay? He's not forcing me to do anything. Half the time I'm the culprit. Sorry mom, sorry dad. That is very negative. I don't know if that'll focus. I'm not pregnant. I don't plan to be pregnant. Okay, no more brothers and sisters. But if we had one, we would love them. Okay.
That was her first red flag, and the audience definitely caught it. Then she brings up another detail. When she gave birth to her twins, she asked to have her tubes tied. She made it clear she didn't want more kids, but due to complications, a crash C-section that turned into a medical emergency, the doctors didn't go through with the sterilization. Now, to be fair, that's not on her. No one can control the outcome of an emergency surgery. That part, totally valid. But everything after that emergency, that's where people had questions. That's where accountability comes in. She had every reason to be careful. Every medical reason, every emotional reason, and every physical reason to not take chances. Her body hadn't healed. Her mental state was fragile, and she was already raising 3 children, 2 of whom were still in the newborn phase. She knew how overwhelmed she was. She knew how traumatizing postpartum had been, yet she rolled the dice. So when she shows up, shocked and teary-eyed, saying she might be pregnant again, the audience couldn't help but feel a little misled. Not because they didn't feel for her, but because her actions didn't align with her. She said she didn't want to go through it again, but nothing she did showed that she tried to prevent. And that gap, that disconnect, is what triggered the backlash. Now, let's break this down with full clarity. A vasectomy doesn't magically make someone sterile the moment the procedure is done. It takes time, typically around 3 months, sometimes longer, for the sperm count to drop to 0. During that period, doctors usually advise using alternative forms of birth control. That's basic post-op protocol. Ash even acknowledged this fact herself. So the real question becomes, why would she put herself in a vulnerable position so soon? She clarified that they didn't do anything after the vasectomy, implying that whatever happened before. But that's exactly the point. It still happened. And from what she said, there was no mention of a backup contraception, no condoms, no plan B. No awareness of the fact that she was in her most fertile postpartum window. She didn't come out and say it directly, but her actions spoke volumes. If someone is truly afraid of going through postpartum again, they would likely move with a bit more caution. But here, there was none. Let's not sugarcoat this. This wasn't just some unfortunate chain of events. It was entirely preventable. Every single part of it, from the timing to the lack of protection to the poor understanding or ignoring of basic post-vasectomy facts. And that's what really made her emotional breakdown confusing to so many viewers. Because how can you be terrified of something you made no real effort to avoid? It created a strange duality in her video. On one side, she's showing genuine fear, maybe even panic, over the possibility of being pregnant again. And on the other side, her own decisions are what put her in that exact spot. It almost came off like she wanted the viral moment, the shock factor, the suspense. And then, when the viewers came rolling in, she leaned into the image of being the exhausted, terrified mom. The problem is, you can't chase sympathy and drama at the same time without someone pointing out the contradiction. And that's exactly what happened here.
Day 7 of 8 solo parenting while I had something else ordered. I somehow have all 3 kids down for a nap at the same time. It's 3:30. I haven't put pants on today. I'm about to hop in the shower. And then tomorrow, I have the busiest day starting at like 6:30 in the morning. So the goal this evening is not only to do like nighttime routine and get the kids down, but to be completely set up for tomorrow. I'm going to be gone from like 8 in the morning until probably 7:30 at night. With 2 breastfeeding 3-month-old twins and a toddler. So let's go.
Let's also talk about the medical side of this, because this isn't just about drama. This is about real risks. Ash gave birth to twins, not one baby, 2 at once. That alone is a massive toll on the body. Her uterus had to stretch twice as much. Her organs were displaced to make room, and the strain on her bones, joints, and overall system was far greater than a single pregnancy. And that's before we even mentioned the C-section she had, which, according to her, was a crash emergency one. That type of delivery requires even more healing time, not just physical but emotionally too. Doctors recommend waiting at least 6 months after giving birth before trying again, and when it's twins or after a surgical delivery, the recommended wait time can stretch to 12 months. That's because the uterus muscles, ligaments, and even the pelvic floor need time to recover. Her core was still healing. Her blood volume was likely still balancing out. Her hormone levels were still trying to stabilize. She's likely still going through postpartum hormonal shifts, still dealing with interrupted sleep cycles, still breastfeeding, which places extra demands on her body. That means extra calorie burn, extra nutrient depletion, and heightened emotional sensitivity. Postpartum is already a period where many moms experience baby blues or even postpartum depression, and to that, the possibility of being pregnant again. And you've got the high-risk situation for emotional overload. And we haven't even touched on the nutritional side. Pregnancy demands iron, calcium, folate protein, and other vitamins, things the body has to replenish after giving birth. If she got pregnant again before replenishing those levels, not only is her body at risk, but also is the developing baby. There's a higher chance of miscarriage, low birth weight, birth defects, and complications during labor. Let's also consider the mental strain. She already had a toddler and twins. She was already solo parenting most days. Her sleep, probably non-existent. Her stress, likely through the roof. So adding another pregnancy and then eventually another newborn to the mix, that's not just overwhelming, it's crushing. This isn't just about poor timing. It's not about being unlucky. It's a genuine medical and emotional risk to herself, to her baby, and even to the kids she already has. Because when a mom burns out, everyone in the household feels it. And that's the part that seemed completely lost in the way she presented her story. Like the danger didn't fully register. But for anyone watching who knows how brutal postpartum recovery can be, this wasn't just frustrating, it was alarming. Here's where people got even more confused and honestly frustrated. How did she have the time, the capacity, or even the mental clarity to be in this situation in the first place? Newborn twins, a toddler, and doing it mostly solo. That's not just exhausting, it's an around-the-clock job with no break. We're talking back-to-back feedings, crying fits at 3 a.m, diaper changes every few hours, nap schedules that never align, and a toddler who still demands attention like they're the only child in the house. It's a kind of chaos that leaves most moms clinging to whatever thread of sanity that they can find. For most people, basic hygiene is a victory, a 10-minute shower, a luxury. So for Ash to be navigating all that while also finding the time and space for intimacy, not just once, but more than once, and then not using any form of protection on top of that, it felt off, not just unusual, but contradictory to the overwhelmed, exhausted image she portrays. And let's not forget, she was the one saying she didn't want to go through postpartum again. So viewers were left asking, if you're so scared of going through it again, how did you end up here? Some viewers gave her grace, suggesting maybe her husband pressured her, or maybe it was a slip-up, a moment of distraction or emotional vulnerability. Others thought maybe she genuinely misunderstood how soon her body could be fertile again. But even those theories started falling apart when she admitted on camera that she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew the vasectomy wasn't effective yet. She knew they had been intimate before the procedure. She knew she wasn't on any additional birth control. So now, it wasn't just confusing, it started to look reckless. Because if you're saying you're terrified of having another baby and you're doing nothing to stop it from happening, it sends a completely mixed message. And that's where the internet drew the line. It wasn't just about judgment, it was about the contradiction between her words and her choices. If you're genuinely afraid of something, wouldn't you use every method available to avoid it? Wouldn't you take that fear seriously? Wouldn't you at least use backup protection or wait a few months until the vasectomy was confirmed effective? That's why people started calling her out, because at that point, it didn't seem like she was caught off guard. It seemed like she was caught being cared, and that's a very different story. Ash later returned to TikTok with another video. She addressed all the backlash, said the video went so viral, her nurse reached out to check in. She doubled down and said she understood how vasectomies work, that the 2 times they had been intimate since giving birth were once at 6 weeks postpartum after her checkup clearance and once at 8 weeks, both initiated by her, not her husband. She added something strange though. She said she likes her husband, unlike other new moms who don't. Not only was that weirdly unnecessary, but it also rubbed people the wrong way, as if being responsible and liking your partner were somehow opposite. She defended herself by saying it's hard to be judged by people who don't live in her shoes, but at the same time, she had voluntarily shared every intimate detail with the internet. You see, this wasn't a private moment accidentally made public. It was a curated video meant to star react. At the end of the video, she reveals the test. It's negative. She breathes a sigh of relief, says she doesn't want another baby, says she and her husband are done. But by now, the damage to her online reputation was already done. Because the problem wasn't the pregnancy scare, it was a lack of consistency, saying one thing while doing the opposite, wanting sympathy while avoiding accountability. She brought everyone along for the emotional ride and then acted confused when people asked questions. That's not transparency, that's manipulation, whether intentional or not. Let's be real. When influencers post highly personal content, especially about pregnancies, kids, or mental health, they're inviting the public into their story. And with that comes opinions, reactions, and yes, even criticism. Ash wanted the emotional connection. She got it, but she didn't seem ready for the accountability that came with it. You can't cry on camera about being terrified about being pregnant again, while also telling the world you don't use protection. That disconnect is what made people feel like they were being played, or at least misled. There's a difference between sharing your story and shifting the blame. Most people weren't mad that she might have been pregnant. They were mad that she didn't take responsibility for how it got to that point. This whole situation was never really about the pregnancy test. It was about the choices that led to it, the contradiction between her fear and her actions, the dramatic presentation followed by shaky excuses. Yes, her doctors should have tied her tubes when up, but after that, she had options and she had to choose the riskiest one. If Ash wants to continue sharing her life online, she has every right, but she also needs to understand that being real means owning up to mistakes, not just crying for sympathy, especially when her choices could have led to serious consequences for her health, her family, and a potential new baby. We're all human, we mess up, but we've got to learn from it. And we've got to stop confusing content with accountability. And most importantly, we need to stop excusing reckless behavior just because it's wrapped in a relatable package. So, what do you all think? Was Ash just overwhelmed and acting out of stress? Was she careless, or was this a cry for help masked as content? Do influencers owe us clarity when they choose to share something this deep with the public? Sound off in the comments. Let's have a real discussion. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real life stories that leave us with more questions than answers.